What's going on, guys? It's Luis from King's Cuts. Today we're going to be doing a taper on the sides and back with the comb over on top. You can actually push it on, Brian. You're good. This is going to be our student Barber, Brian. He's been training for a couple months now, so it's time to get him clean up. Going to do a transformation video and pretty much going to do a taper on the sides, back, and then we'll see what we can do with a nice outline for him. And then you can go back to me. You're good. A little bit more of my face. I just want to say thank you guys so much for all the views. I've been checking out my YouTube for a while. It's been crazy. The only reason I haven't uploaded in, I think it was like 2 months, was because of having the baby, business, and just a bunch of stuff. My baby's a month old now, so we're just trying to get things up to wrap for all this other stuff. Now that I have some more available time, I should be able to upload consistently, probably once a week. I have Monday and Tuesdays, somewhat off days, so hopefully you guys can do more YouTube videos with that. And yeah, I just want to say I appreciate it. Hopefully everybody had a good Christmas, and today's New Year 2022. Hope you guys enjoy all the videos. Thank you. Before we start this video, I just want to say sorry if my voice sounds a little bit different. I got either a sore throat or I got sick somehow, some way as I was editing the video. So if it sounds like raspy, sorry about that. But to start this, we're going to find out where his ridge is, and we're going to do a number 2 to flick out. I first start open because I want to make sure that I have a good amount of space left between the top and the actual fading part, so it stays somewhat dark. You can always start closed as well, but I like to start open because I can always take more hair off if I wanted to. So starting it open just leaves me with a little bit more room and adjustable space that I can do for when I start to fade. And then after doing that all the way around, I make sure that it's 3 finger lengths below the cowlick, so that way I give him enough space, so that way I can clip over comb his part. I want to make sure that I'm clip over combing, but not too high, because he has a lot of bounce in the back of his head. So you just want to make sure that when you're clipping over comb, you're only taking off a 1/4 inch at a time. You don't want to take any more than that. And then once you have your guideline set to where everything's blended, you can then follow through that through the entire head. After doing clip over comb, I just wet his hair a little bit so that way I can section off to see what I can cut and what I can't cut. Then I'm also going to separate it so that way when I start the fading process, I don't cut anything from the top half that I don't need to. And then for the top half, we're just going to do open and close with no guard. I like to do a radial pattern, so that way it pretty much looks like a half circle. You can also do a diamond, it just depends on preference. For me personally, I like the radial because that way I can follow through with all the clippers and to do a half circle motion throughout. So like 1/16, so the half guard or the 1 guard, I can do that in a radial motion as well. So after you do the closed and you get that probably around 1/2 inch below that radial marker, then we're gonna go to trimmers, follow up right behind that, the closed mark, and then after that we're gonna do balders. For balders, you can start down and then you can go in upward motion to make sure it's nice and bald. So for the downward motion, all we're doing is thinning out the hair a little bit more so that way it doesn't irritate his skin. After we get done balding him out, then we're going to go into lever playing. So basically lever playing is switching off from open to close and in between them, trying to make sure that you can figure out the best spot to get the fade out. You can also see I'm only using about 25% of the blade or the corner of the blade. That's just called corner notching. It allows me to go in with a shorter, closer blade and to higher spots, so that way it doesn't completely cut all of it. It just cuts a little. Right there, you guys saw me. For my next step, I'm going to be doing a 1 instead of the 1/16. You can go to the 1/16. I just like skipping a step, so that way I know what I can't go past to, and then I also know what my next guideline is going to be. So if I do the 1 open instead of the 1/16 open first, you see that little marker behind that where you see the line for the 1/16. I know which line I need to take out, and I also know what I can't go above, which is going to be that 1.5 marker. So basically where the 1 is right now, I can take out with the 1/16 next, and then after that I can choose to either do shears or I can choose to do a 1.5. You're going to see later in the video that I choose to do shears because for me it's a lot easier to stay nice and controlled and also keep the hair dark. On top of that, once we moved on to the half guard, we're just going to be doing lever playing and also corner notching. So just using 25% of the blade, not the entire blade, so that way it can allow me to go. So that way I can go higher into the 1 guard with the 1/16, but also not creating another line with the 1/16. Basically, it's allowing me to go into smaller areas and not restarting the fade. And then as you can see here, I'm basically going in with shears instead of the 1.5. It's just based on preference. If you want to, you can go 1.5 and follow that same radial method. But for me, it's just going to be a little bit easier to go in with shears because that way I can stay nice in control. And then on top of that, I can also leave it as dark as possible. Your next steps are just to outline, and for the outline, I always like to start with just 25% of the blade, and then I follow it through the full motion. So basically all I'm going to be doing is using corners. You're going to see that throughout the entire cut. Again, I'm using corners, 25% of the blade on the opposite side. All you have to do is pull the ear down, go on the left to right, and then for the back side, you just go right to left. Again, as you can see, only 25% of the blade. Now that we're going to be going to his back, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to do open, close, trimmers, balders, and then I'm going to go back in with the no guards, and then I'm going to lever play with it. For here, I like to stay with relative, probably I want to say medium for the taper. I wouldn't say it's a little bit higher because I'm staying right below his earlobe. The way I measure my tapers in the back, if I want to do medium, I go to the earlobe with the open. If I wanted to do a higher taper, I would go a little bit above the earlobe with the open. And then if I wanted to do a low taper, it would be probably 1/2 inch below the earlobe with an open. And then that's how you would produce your fade. I know for some barbers, they like to do a higher taper. Some like to do a more radial taper in the back. For me, I like to do a medium taper. So I just find out where the earlobe is on each person's head, and I start with the open no guard. For this open, I want to say 2 finger lengths, or at least probably 1.5 inches of space, just because we used a number 2 on the side of his head to debulk, and the next step would only have to go to a 1.5 to take that line out to blend to the 2. Also, it adds a pretty good gradient to it. I like it where my fades stretch instead of keeping it tight. I could always show you guys a tight taper. It just looks more like a blowout than it would a taper. So that's why I stretch my fades out so much, and that's why I stretched out so much with the 1. And then I'm just going to be following the same steps. I'm going to close the 1, and I'm just going to go 1/2 inch below that. And then after that, I'm going to go into the 1/16. You guys are going to see me clear with the 1/16 as well. And then I'm also going to clear with the 1.5. And then after that, we're going to do some cleanup work with the 1 again, just because we have to pay attention to the person's shape of the head. So sometimes they're going to be a little bit more dark spots in some areas than the other areas. So for this half guard and 1/16 guard, basically the same thing. You're going to notice that on his right side and also on his left side, it stays a little bit darker. So I may have to go in with the closed half guard a little bit higher than I normally would, just to get those dark spots out. Once you go in further with your barber career, you're going to notice that each person's head is shaped differently. So if you need to go with a higher clip on one specific side just to get a little bit of the shadows out, you can. You just got to make sure that you only stay focused in that specific area, and that's where corner notching becomes really important. So that way you only use 25% of the blade just to get those individual dark spots out. So we're gonna use the 1.5 guard, and I try my best to stay away from this guard, specifically with walls or even Andis. I just prefer that, not Andis, Babyliss. I prefer to use metal instead of plastic because the 1.5 teeth are so wide. There's a lot of room for error. So that's why I'm going back in with the 1 right now to clear up some of the error that the 1.5 pretty much gave me on the cut. You just have to go in and corner notch those dark areas. And I know that seems like it's going to be the topic of the video, is corner notching, but I just really want to illustrate that some areas are going to stay darker unless you go in with a lower blade and corner notch those dark areas out. It's part of the fading process that you have to find where the dark spots are and then go into a lower clip and corner notch them out, because not everyone's head is going to be the shape of a mannequin. It's not all going to be perfectly and evenly. So that's why you have to go into those dark areas and clean up. And then you also have to figure out, hey, I went with 1.5, it's not taking it out. What can take it out? You're gonna have to go lower, corner notch it. If it's still not taking it out, what's lower than a 1? Then you're gonna have to go to a 1/2. Just pretty much some type of, I don't want to say common sense, but basically like cause and effect. If a 1.5 leaves a dark area, then you would have to go and win with a 1 to clear that area up. And then for the top half of the hair, you see I'm just clearing out a little bit of bulk. I'm taking about 1 inch, clearing it out so that way it shapes up like a comb over. Then you can use your product of choice. I'm gonna be using the clay, and I'm just lining him up with the razor just behind the ear and also on the arches to make it even sharper. And pretty much the haircut's gonna be done, and you guys are gonna see it styled. Thank you guys so much for watching. Peace. Oh yeah, also, if you like the video, give it a thumbs up. It helps with the algorithm. And also, yeah, leave a comment what you guys want to see next. All right, peace. Let me know when you're recording. You good? Guys, the video just finished. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. It's gonna be a taper on the sides and back with a comb over, messy part. And again, I'm gonna try to do this weekly. Thank you, Alex, for the camera situation. And thank you, Brian, over there. If you can, you can show Bri. Yeah, so appreciate the video. If you guys want, please give it a thumbs up, comment down below what you guys want to see next. I really appreciate the views so far, and yeah, thank you. See ya.